Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Audible.com, your place to go for an amazing selection of audiobooks that you can download. And we at Roadie Free Radio want to thank you for your support. So we're going to offer you a free 30-day trial with a free audiobook download when you use the code Roadie Free Radio when you check out by heading over to audibletrial.com/Roadie Free Radio. That's audibletrial.com/Roadie Free Radio. Just use the code Roadie Free Radio when you check out to get your free 30-day trial and your free audiobook download.
What's up, Roadies? This is Sean Quackenbush.
This is Courtney Taylor.
This is Robert Scovill on Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, Roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. What's happening, Roadies? Larry Milburn here with episode number 52 of Roadie Free Radio, coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. How are we doing? Did you guys have a good weekend? Are you rocking? Are you rolling? Are you doing it? I hope so. It was a good week for me. It is nice to be back in the barn, chilling on the mic and bringing you this week's episode. I got to tell you, I actually recorded this interview 2 weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half ago, and I've just been dying to get to it and to bring it to you. So we're going to do that very shortly. I got a couple quick things right off the bat I got to do. First of all, I want to give a shout out to John Kane, who was part of the Bill Hanley episode number 50. Still kicking ass on YouTube here. If you haven't seen it, come over and check it out. Episode number 50, Bill Hanley, father of Festival Sound, and his cohort, John Kane. I got a gift in the mail from John. It is an autographed photograph of Bill Hanley at Woodstock, but it's from the perspective of the stage with Richie Havens out on stage during his amazing set. And he's got a little note. Larry, thanks again, John Kane and Bill Hanley, with a quote: "The God of music dwelleth outdoors," by Edith Matilda Thomas. And there's another little post. I'm going to put this up here on YouTube so the folks watching can see it. That little post-it, where'd it go? Hello. Over there. That's Bill sitting right over there, which is totally crazy. He looks like it's like a Where's Waldo kind of picture. Anyway, super cool picture. Thank you, John Kane. If you haven't listened to the episode yet, please head over and check it out. We had a blast doing it. All right. Also want to let you guys know, I mentioned it last time, Patreon. We have started a Patreon account. As you know, the show is listener supported. And we are looking to build an audience and build a fund from which we can be doing a lot more cool content for you guys. So if you head over to patreon.com/Roadie Free Radio, you will see a list of goals that we have right now and a list of rewards. And we have a lot of cool rewards for you to take advantage of. Everything from, t-shirts and whatnot, regular swag, to things like, hey, maybe you're starting your own podcast. You don't know where to begin. Well, at a certain, level that you subscribe to the show, I will consult with you and help you get your show up and running and basically just help answer any questions that you might have. There's a lot of other cool stuff. We can do some Google Chains, some Google Chats, and some Skype calls and whatnot. So you feel like you're part of the show, and even some other cool stuff where you will get to help me do an intro for one of the Roadie Free Radio episodes that will be coming up. So check that out. We could use your help. Roadie Free Radio on Patreon. Think of Patreon as an ongoing Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. You subscribe monthly. It helps us out keeping the show going. So that's it for Patreon. Also, soundgirls.org. You know what? There's a frog in my throat today. I'm having a tough time getting the words out. Let's try it again. Soundgirls.org, as you know, is an organization that I'm very, very fond of. We've had many Sound Girls members on the show, and we're going to have a lot more coming up. They have these awesome camps going on. that cater to young men and women between the ages of 12 and 18. And this particular camp that I'm plugging is the one coming up in Brooklyn on August 14th through the 18th. All right. You basically get to go all day for a few days and learn everything about audio, monitor mixing, front of house mixing, how to wrap a cable, safety, all kinds of cool stuff. It is all being taught by women who are out in the industry right now working at a very high level in their profession. So it's not something to be missed. August, and then the Friday that the thing is done, all the campers actually get to bring in a band, load them in, get them through sound check, and then put the show on. And it's a really cool way to just learn some skills hands-on and from some amazing people. So soundgirls.org in Brooklyn, August 14th through 18th. Go check out the website. It's going to be at the Paper Box in Brooklyn. Pretty cool venue as well. My good friend Fela Davis will be there. Carrie Kais as well. So come and check it out. All right. You know, guys, I've never dedicated a show. And today I'm going to dedicate the show. I was thinking about it. I got to dedicate it to two people. Two people are going to get this dedication. We're talking about Robert Scovill, who's today's guest on the show. And the first guy I have to dedicate this episode to is my father-in-law, Bill Seitz. Cool guy, photographer, truck collector aficionado, and more importantly, a big music fan, and most importantly, a huge fan of this podcast. It was his birthday, and the reason we went to go see Tom Petty in the first place in Hartford at the Xfinity Center a couple of weeks ago when I got to interview Mr. Scovill. And so, Bill, this episode is for you. And I have to dedicate this to another gentleman who's another big supporter of this show, a big listener. He has thrown lots of people my way to be on the show. And if it weren't for him, I wouldn't even know about Robert Scovill, and I wouldn't even have gotten a chance to set this thing up. So, I know you're on the road, young man. Mr. Sean Quackenbush, this show's for you too, pal. All right? Sean's been on the show. If you don't know Sean's story, head back, episode number 47. He has had quite a run, and he continues to kill it out there. So, Sean, this one's for you too, pal. All right. So here's the deal. Here's how this episode came about. And I got to tell you about it because it was so awesome. And I'm going to try to run through it quickly so we can get to the actual interview. But basically, I reached out to Robert. I told him that Sean had recommended I talk to him. Guy didn't even hesitate. He was all about it. He said, great. I was already going to the show with my in-laws and my wife. We were going to the Xfinity Center to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with Joe Walsh on their 40th anniversary tour. And I said, look, I'm going to be there. I'd love to come in, get an interview with you. It won't take long, all that good stuff. He said, no problem. So I started doing some digging and learned more about Robert. And each time I looked, I got more impressed and more impressed. It was a crazy week. I had a lot going on. I had a couple other interviews at the beginning of the week. Truth be told, even though I read a bunch about Robert Scovill, I did not get to take notes, nor did I really get to write down some of the questions that I wanted to get to. The only link that I had, that my starting point was, as you'll hear as the interview gets going, is that he's kind of known as the father of digital sound. And Bill Hanley, who I just had on the show, as you know, was known as the father of festival sound and came out of a time when, digital audio would have been thought of as something fucking Back to the Future. So anyway, that was going to be my jumping off point. And the only time that Robert could do the interview was at 11 a.m. in the morning. So I thought, all right, I'm going to be at the Xfinity Center at 11 in the morning in Hartford. We'll do the interview, and then what the hell am I going to do for 6 hours? So I brought a bunch of other gear. I was going to film some segments and some stuff while I was there. Meet Robert, great guy, gives me a backstage pass. We go to his bus. We sit on the bus. We do the interview. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I was a little nervous, a little intimidated. He's a brilliant guy for what he does, but also a super nice guy. So we start the interview, And immediately I relax and we're having a good time. And I'm on the bus. I love the goddamn buses. If I could just have a tour bus parked in my driveway just so I can climb in and out every once in a while, I would do that. Anyway, so we do the interview. It's awesome. It's great. I could have kept going. There were so many, again with these people, you got to understand there's so many avenues, so many rabbit holes to dive down. And I don't have that much time. I try to keep it to an hour and 10, maybe 20 minutes. That's about it. So we get done what we can get done. And he says, that was great. I had a really good time. And he goes, by the way, where are you and your wife sitting? I said, well, we got the cheap seats. We're going to be up in the lawn area. And my in-laws I think they're near you by the sound booth. He said, no. You and your wife you're going to stay with me. Takes out another pass, gives it to me to give to my wife. And I said, listen, you don't need to sit there. It's okay, man. He's like, no. I want you to come see what I do. And I want you to, hang out. I said, okay, I really appreciate it. Was not expecting that. So that was super cool. Then, he says, well, why don't you come have lunch, hang out, and then, come to virtual sound check. I want you to see what that's all about too. Okay. I'm not going to turn that down. So I go have lunch with him. And there's so much cool stuff going on backstage at a show like this. I mean, the cases and the names on the cases and Joe Walsh's amps, just roll by magically on a big riser, and all kinds of cool stuff is happening. And I'm dying. Anyway, I spend the afternoon with Robert Scovill at his station at front of house. I meet Kevin Sproat, who's there doing front of house for Joe Walsh, who opened for Tom Petty. And I also meet, and I want to give a shout out to Robert's assistant, Vic Wagner, who he looks like Clark Kent, but he moves like fucking Spider-Man. Okay. This dude, and he had a brain like, I don't even know. He was amazing. And he was a super cool guy. And he was all over the place and yet nowhere at once. It was the most zen thing I'd seen. Anyway, I got to see them tune the PA, which was a super cool PA. I can't even get into what it was. I believe it was made by EAW. Very cool. See the board, the whole thing. And then he took me through virtual sound check, which after talking about virtual sound check and reading about virtual sound check before I did the interview, to actually see it and understand that the band doesn't even show up, that he's using the recordings from the previous night's show, and he can pull up everything and isolate things. It was mind-blowing. It was honestly mind-blowing. One of the coolest things that I've seen in a while. Anyway, we get through that. 6:00, as you'll hear on the dot, Robert says, I got to go take a nap. He runs off. He takes a nap, and I hang out. The wife comes. Everybody comes. We watch Joe Walsh. Great show. Kevin Sproat at the board did a fantastic job. As soon as Joe Walsh is done, that stuff just gets flown right out of front of house. Cases are gone. We come back, and I see Robert's desk. I see his desk by Avid, all lit up, man. It looks like a spaceship. The photograph that I used for Robert's episode, go back and take a look. That's what it looks like. And I'll try to post a couple more this week. It looks like a spaceship. He looks like, and he's sitting there lit up, right? He looks like fucking Captain Kirk, ready to blast off. It was the coolest looking thing. And I just had this moment where I thought, all right, I'm going to watch a master at his craft do his thing. And this is going to be special. And sure enough, man, the lights went out and the show started, and it sounded unbelievable. It sounded great. Of course it was going to sound great. I didn't think it wasn't going to sound good, but to sit and watch him do his thing was really something. And to have spent the whole day with him. And as you guys know, a lot of my interviews are Skype. I don't get to watch people in their natural environment as much as I would like to. When I can, I do. But to be there on a show and watch him through the whole day and learn about what he was doing really gave me a much deeper understanding and appreciation about what goes into it. And I'll be damned, with, a couple of songs left in the night, his assistant Vic immediately jumped into action, started breaking stuff down around us so that as soon as they were done with that encore, they were ready to break down and hit the road for the next town, and it was really quite a sight. So before we get going, I just want to thank Victor and Robert for hosting me. I would love to come find you guys again and to spend some time out there. If you listening right now, if you guys want to learn more about Robert's stuff and what he does, he's also a teacher for Avid. I'm going to put the link in here to his YouTube channel. He does these amazing videos on YouTube where he takes you through the entire day. He's also a big CrossFit type person. He takes you through his workout at the arena or the stadium, wherever they're at, in the morning, and then right through sound check and through the show, warts and all. It's really, really cool to check out. So do that. Robert Scovill on YouTube. All right. If you don't know who Robert is, folks, let's start paying attention. Okay. Robert Scovill, father of digital audio. He's a little humble when I said that, but you know what? That's what he is. I'm going to say that's what he is. He's a master teacher with Avid. He helps design their consoles. He goes out after the Mountain Jam show, which was like 2 shows after I saw him in Hartford. He was heading down. I can't remember where the hell he was going. He was going to go do a week-long class on sound. The guy never stops. He's thorough. He's dedicated. He's been with Rush, Def Leppard. You go check out his bio. I put the link in there. It's pretty spectacular. He's a 2-time Parnelli Award winner for his achievement in audio and whatnot. Really, really great guy. Great guy. So the next time you're at a show and it's Tom Petty, he's been with Tom Petty for 23 years. 23 years, man. Tom Petty. All right. That's all I can say. I'm kind of gushing. It was really amazing, and I can't say that enough. So I want you guys to enjoy it. Listen to the episode. Blast some Tom Petty. And let's get on down with Robert Scovill. Hit it!
Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Super excited to talk to you. I'm going to tell you why.
Super excited to be here. This is cool.
Well, we're on the back of the bus here. We're at the Xfinity Center, right? In Hartford.
I think that's what they're calling it these days.
That's what it is. Because I get the Xfinity and the XL Center confused.
Right.
And you've been on the road for the last couple of months at least, and you probably don't know where you are right now.
Well, it's so funny. I mean, anymore, I get the itinerary and I look and they have all the buildings listed and you go, oh, wow, they must have a new building there. Right. Only to get there, it's the same old shithole. They just renamed it, Exactly. Shithole 2.0,
Right.
Oh,
Some new corporate conglomerates come in and help sponsor. I don't know if you know this. I just had Bill Hanley. Do you know who Bill is? But just had Bill Hanley to celebrate our 50th episode of the show. And
that's strong, man.
Yeah, pretty good, right? And as I was thinking about our talk today,
yep.
I'm going to try to pull this together. I haven't verbalized this yet, so bear with me.
Work it, man. Work the circle.
Here we go. Bill was a pioneer of his time. Mm-hmm. And if you think about where and how old live sound reinforcement is, it's like 50 years old. This is the summer celebration of the Summer of Love 50 years ago. We got Woodstock in 2 more years. And he was a pioneer in what he did. He was a leader, he was an innovator. And the digital part of that is like 30 years, 20 years.
Well, for live sound, it's even shorter than that.
Even shorter than that, right?
Yeah. Really, the first really digital imprint on live sound probably didn't happen until the late 90s,
right,
honestly.
Right. And when I think about what you do and how invested in it are, I saw a little clip, a little quote that you're sort of the father of the digital aspect of that. And something struck me as I was doing Bill's thing, and this will be our dancing point, our touching off point here, if you will. Okay. And that is that we did it live at Daryl's house.
Yeah.
Right? Peter Moshe is the guy. And also a big fan of yours, by the way.
Nice.
And anyway, we're doing the interview, and I look down at the side of the stage, and there's an iPad with the mix on it.
Yeah.
And all the controls. And I thought, how weirdly cool that I'm sitting here with a guy who's 80 years old who helped invent live sound reinforcement, to a large degree, and that's what it's become. So I'm wondering if you can just touch on that. It's right. It's like looking at evolution, right?
Yeah.
The world is however many billions of years old, and we're just a blip. It's almost
well,
like,
that's true. I mean, if you look at it as the long piece of string, right? I mean, we're one little thread on the long piece of string.
yeah, and
right?
it's almost like the current state of digital affairs for this thing.
Well, the music industry, I think, is, from a technological point of view, is a really fascinating thing. Anyway, and I've talked about this in the past because it is the only industry, the only one, where we can have reverence and actual usability of technology that is 50, 60, 70 years old and claim that it competes with something that was released yesterday. Not only competes, surpasses. There's this real romantic aspect to it, and there's the analog versus digital thing has been going on forever. And it's funny we're going to hit this because it just hit me the other day. I started thinking about this after seeing a few videos of guys who were designers talking about it, and I started thinking, from a cultural point of view, we're actually really lucky that analog came first. Because if digital came first and somebody tried to build something analog and promote it to us as something to do with audio, we'd go, get that shit out of here. That's awful.
Right.
I mean, it's got distortion in it. It's got harmonic content in it. It's got all these artifacts we don't have. We don't have that in digital. Why would we want that?
Right.
So it's weird in a very, very weird way, because analog has happened and has been a part of our listening experience for 40 or 50 years, we're programmed to think that is right.
Yeah.
We are victims of that program. I am absolutely a victim of it. When I talk about to students a lot of times when you're mixing, they talk about how do you get a snare drum sound. It's got to exist in your head before you ever go turn it on and try to get anywhere. You've got to know it first and then go after it. You can't, otherwise you're just going to go round and round in circles and try to find something that's satisfying. So it's an interesting paradigm. It's a really interesting time in sound reinforcement right now, given the transition to digital, because it's very pervasive right now. I mean, it's everywhere right now.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys I talk to, guys and gals that I talk to that are using these boards and decks and whatnot, they start describing the things that these decks can do, and I'm like, wow, that is amazing, man.
Well, it's like I say, it's a fascinating time because because I come from manufacturing as well, so I've really seen both sides of the world there for sure. And I find it really fascinating that we've now taken with the current technology things that used to be just so dead simple to do and made it incredibly complex to get it done.
Yeah.
And the flip side is we've taken things that were impossible to do in analog and they are very simple to do in digital now.
Right.
It's like we've just had this big trade.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not so sure the trade is right sometimes, for sure. I'm not sure it's in our favor sometimes.
Yeah.
But on whole, I think we're headed in the right direction. So.
But I think what you just said, you use the snare drum, the drum sound as the example.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no matter how many cool digital blinking light tools, whatever, or analog desk you've got, it's still a person pushing the fader up and then turning a few other things to dial it into where they want to be.
Yeah.
Without that person, right? I mean, you can't just put a mic on something and hit,
Well,
I liken it to. I'm an editor also, yeah. And people used to say, "Are you fast on Final Cut Pro? How fast are you on Final Cut Pro? You pretty fast on?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, my keyboard's got a Sundance button and an Oscar button. So whichever festival or award you go, you just press that, and Final Cut Pro, bam, it does it. It does it for you. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it still takes somebody to tell a story,
people. Yeah,
right? And it still takes someone to hear what's happening."
Again, that kind of plays into the romance of this whole thing a little bit, and we're all really, really susceptible to it. And believe me, the manufacturers know we're susceptible to it.
Yeah.
This whole concept of I've got to have one of those to be successful.
Right.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do my gig without that.
Sure.
And it's such a trap.
Right.
It is such a trap.
Yeah.
I mean.
And that goes for anything. I mean, it's like, I got to have the best mic in my studio to do my podcast.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Right.
I mean, really. I mean, if you do, that doesn't say much about your content.
Right, right.
So I'm always promoting that to people. Just make sure and keep that in check emotionally with you.
Right.
You are going to make the difference, not the gear. The faith has got to be in the people, not the technology.
Yeah.
As soon as those two things flip flop, you're you're headed down a bad path, man.
Yeah.
Bad path. It's not going to go well.
So, Robert, let's talk about your path.
Yeah.
And let's talk about where it started, because you've been doing this a long time at a very high level. And I'm sure it wasn't always like that, Robert.
Well, it wasn't always like that, but I would be the first to say I was very, very fortunate to get into it at a very early age. I just, I was in the right place at the right time, and I was prepared to be there. I definitely subscribed to the John Wooden thing of, when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare.
Right.
So, I was fortunate enough to get a glimpse of what this all was at a very young age. Like, at 13 or 14, I knew what I wanted to go do.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in St. Louis, just the suburbs, a little bit south of St. Louis, a place called Valley Park, Missouri.
Big family?
What's that?
Big family?
No, only child. But was consumed by music from a very, very young age. If we want to go all the way back, again, it's programming, right? What you're exposed to. Both my mother and father worked, and the things I remember about my childhood were mom and dad waking me up to get ready to go to school, coming down in the breakfast area, and my dad had a radio up on the fridge, and it was on country and western music. Period. End of story. If you changed that dial, you were heading to the woodshed.
Wow.
It's on. Okay, don't mess with that.
Yep.
So, I have all of this country and western programming that happened at a really young age. And then they would drop me off at a babysitter while they both went to work. They had a teenage son, so it was all Beatles and everything else for the other 3 or 4 hours of the day,
Sure.
And I look back on that and I go, it had to have planted all the seeds.
Oh,
it
yeah.
had to have planted all the seeds.
Definitely. And were you drawn to it as a potential musician?
Yeah. I started out, I wanted to be a drummer. I wanted to be Mitch Mitchell. That's who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then
The country and western dad, I bet that went real well.
That did not go. I had the right hair at the time, that's for sure.
Did you?
But I remember, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go down rabbit holes.
Yeah,
here.
no, it's good.
I remember taking drum lessons, and I had this really cool teacher in St. Louis named Willie. I can't remember his last name now, but I remember this was in 1970, and I had been taking lessons for a couple of years. And up until that time, it was all Mitch and all this kind of, really kind of jazz stuff. It was like rock-infused jazz.
Yeah.
Or jazz-infused rock. And one day he comes in and he's holding Who's Next, and he goes, the whole game has changed. The whole game has changed. You're sitting right at the front of the stage now.
Wow.
And he throws that on, and I was listening. I was like, oh my gosh, the drummer's playing all the solos.
Right.
There's no guitar solos. It's all drums.
Yeah.
So that was a big moment. I remember that. And that was a very influential moment for me.
And also St. Louis.
Oh, that was
St.
Rock
Louis
Town,
at
man.
that time. Yeah, there's a lot of music
Oh,
going
that
on.
was-
Predominantly blues coming through there?
No, it was a big rock town.
Okay.
And progressive rock town. They had a radio station there that is still operational, KSHE 95, KSHE 95. And at the time, I've learned this over time, just kind of researching it out of my own thing. They were the only progressive rock station in the top 10 radio stations in the nation.
Wow.
They were a big deal.
Wow.
And, they had so many syndicated shows on there. I could talk about it forever. And one that I remember in particular was Jim Ladd's interview.
Yeah.
They had that, and then on Sunday night it would be the seventh day. They would play 7 albums from song 1 to the end every night, back to back.
Yep.
And I remember those interviews with Jim Ladd, just so crystal clear, because they exposed a side of it, where you got to meet them as people a little bit,
right,
and see a side of them, see where the music was coming from and stuff. Oh man, it was just so engaging. And I just remember, I'm going to be in this business. I'm going to be in this business. I just got to figure out a way to do it.
And you knew at a young age. So what was
Very
the thing?
young age.
What was the thing at 13?
The thing at 13 that really set me on my path, certainly to this path, was I went to see Supertramp. And this was 1974. Yeah, 1974 at the Fox Theater in St. Louis. And as luck would have it, I had seats down in the lower bit. And, at that time, I didn't know what sound reinforcement or anything was,
Yeah.
But I remember...
Well, you were also going as a fan.
Yeah,
of
I was
the
going
band.
totally as a fan.
Yeah.
But I remember at that show having that moment of, what is going on here? This sounds unbelievable, It was just like, this is way more than just band gear on stage playing,
Yeah.
Like you see at your prom,
Right, of course.
So I mean, I was just mesmerized by it the whole night. And as I'm walking out, I'm walking right by the front of house position. And I remember stopping and staring and kind of thinking, what is this, And I still don't know who it is to this day. I don't know if it was Nigel Pope, who was actually mixing the thing at the time, or it was his sister or whatever. But he caught my eye, and he looked at me and goes, "You want to come up and have a look around? Oh. I'll show you what's happening." Just literally just the most charitable thing. Just said, "Come on up." He saw it in my eyes. I know he did. And took me around and showed me what was going on. And, I was completely hooked from that moment. It's a combination of that. And I've told this story before. It was a combination of that and Alan Parsons doing an interview. I think it was on Interview, talking about recording Dark Side of the Moon. And between those two things, I just was like, I had blinders on from that moment.
Yeah. It's so awesome, man, because it could have gone the other way. And I think it does for a lot of people, where it's like, hey, man, step aside, kid, whatever, I got to get this thing out here, blah, blah, blah.
That will never happen at one of my shows.
Right.
I can tell you. Matter of fact, I had a little 8-year-old boy the other night that I brought up and showed around. If you want to know,
sorry, folks,
come on up.
I'm getting the kid. He's joining the circus.
That's right.
Well, and you say that, and that was one of the first things that struck me. Not only was everybody who I asked, very forthright about how awesome you are, right? Peter Moshe and all these folks, Sean Quackenbush. But I went on your Facebook page, and as we talked about walking over here to the bus, you're videoing these things. You're giving people tours.
Yeah.
You're obviously, you work for Avid, so those blog posts and whatnot, that's
helping
part
them,
of your job, right? But like the stuff that you do, just walking around and showing people, it's so cool to lift back that veil.
Yeah, and I think it's just because I have such a crystal clear memory of what it felt like to be kind of standing and going, how do you get in? How do you get in?
Yeah.
Or what is this? Or how, I remember my first few days working in an actual professional environment and just being a complete fish out of water. And, I know what that feels like. So it's like as much, and I also know what it feels like to have a mentor take you aside and go, look, let me show you how this works.
Right.
It was career changing. I mean, that happened to me at the age of about 19, 20, and it changed the arc of my life and my career.
So 13, you had this experience at Supertramp.
Yeah.
And then it took another 6 years for you to hook up and find a mentor. So in those 6 years-ish, what happened? So you go home from Supertramp and you're like, holy
buzzing.
Shit.
Absolutely buzzing.
And you're playing drums.
I couldn't find out enough about it,
And how did you? 1974, how are you finding out about anything?
I remember,
Rolling Stone ain't telling you about that,
that
guy, right?
No. Although I can remember, there are glimpses of things that I remember. Like, you remember the magazine Hit Parader?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, 70s. I'm a huge Kansas fan. I love Kansas. And they did an expose on Phil's drum kit and how it's mic'd. And Hit Parader. I probably still have it at home somewhere. I'm not kidding. It's probably sitting in my warehouse somewhere. And, you had these little bitty things where you started to get a hold of it. And, at that time also there was a really great show on television. It was on ABC. And I can't believe we haven't recreated this at this point in the whole thing. But between Don Kirshner's rock concert and the ABC series In Concert.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my lifeblood through that period. Absolutely my lifeblood.
Yeah.
Because those were actual live shows. I mean, those were not lip sync. Those were not,
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really cool.
So you're going to high school in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And you're thinking this is going to be the path. What did your folks do for work?
My dad was a construction worker, part-time policeman at times. My mother was a nurse, full-time nurse.
So what did your dad think?
Well, it was worse than that. I mean, both sides of my family, mom and dad, they're all military. I mean, they all came through military, so I think I look back and I think I might've been the first male on either side of the family to not be some sort of first responder or
wow,
and then on top of it to have long hair and go, yes, I'm going to be a rock star. That went over like a Led Zeppelin. No,
yeah.
I mean, it didn't go over too well for a while. So.
I bet.
But that all came back around in a really, really cool way once I started touring a little bit.
Yeah,
and it was pretty funny.
So what's happening through school? You're playing drums in bands. And you're trying to learn a bit about this stuff. And then what starts to happen toward 19?
Well, I started, I kind of took it on my own shoulders for a little bit. I remember, I can remember going to we had an electronics version of shop class at that point, and of course we all had big hi-fi stereos, so
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I'm going to make a quad stereo system.
Did you have the van too with the plush carpet?
Probably. If I could have afforded a van, I would have one. But I made this. I went down, we got the parts from Radio Shack and made this 4 potentiometer panner or level control for all the speakers.
Nice.
And my classmates, I think, thought, okay, yeah, he's some sort of savant. We don't know where he's going right now.
Or he's got the best grass in town.
Yeah, or he's got the best weed, right? Yeah. But at some point I remember pulling my counselor aside and saying, okay, and I brought in like a magazine or something. It might even been the Hit Parader thing, and saying, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what help me. And I mean, it was just this complete blank stare. And he kind of goes, well, it looks really technical. I think you probably should join the Army. Let's get you in the Army.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there thinking, my dad talked to him. I know my dad talked to him.
Right.
And of course I'm going, dude, I'm not going in the Army.
Yeah.
No,
this guy's not going to do it. Right.
So, he did a little research on it. And, it was funny as a counselor how he put it together. Well, it looks like a lot of electronics. Let's send you to electronics school.
Right. So were you sneaking out to clubs or getting out to clubs to see bands at that time?
At that time, if we did it, I hope Mom's not listening to this, the drinking age in Illinois was 19.
Okay.
All right. So drinking age in Missouri was 21 at the time. So, and there was a few underage clubs in Missouri that we could go to. So really, I was this kid in school. I was a 13-year-old freshman, and I was fully embraced by the seniors in the high school. So we learned how to drink really early, and they helped me get a fake ID. And it was on from that moment on.
Right. It's been on.
And I think it had something to do with, wow, he's an athlete and he's a drummer, and come on, you're going with us.
Right. You could bridge that gap.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So then what happened as you got into your later teens?
So we decided that, I kind of conceded, okay, electronics, all right, great. So went to a school in Kansas City, enrolled in a school in Kansas City. And this is where things really kind of turned interesting. I went to a school in Kansas City studying for a double E in electronic engineering. And on the bulletin board at school, there was a sound company in town, regional sound company called named Superior Sound. Great, fantastic company. And they had put up a bulletin on the bulletin, or a notice on the bulletin board saying they were looking for volunteers to help out with this big series of shows that they do every week in this area called Brush Creek. So this creek that runs right through the really affluent area of Kansas City down there.
Okay.
And they'd set up a big stage across the creek, and it was a free concert on weekends. You just come down. Sometimes it would be Kansas City Philharmonic. The next week it might be Chicago. The next week it might be Pat Metheny. I mean, you just didn't know. You know? Something great. I'm in. Let's go.
Right.
I go charging down there, and do the first show. And next weekend comes around. I'm sitting on Friday waiting for the phone to ring, No phone call. I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's like, this is going to be my path. I know this is going to be it, So
Right.
I just go down there. I just go down and show up, put my clothes on, show up, bring my gloves, the whole 9 yards. And they assume I'm on the call. Because they saw me the week before. So long story short, I do the whole summer series with them. Never got called back once. I just kept showing up.
Wow.
And by the end of it, I was one of the most experienced guys on the crew, but still hadn't been officially called from the sound company to go to work.
And what were you doing?
Oh, it was everything from, setting up consoles, setting up monitors, everything to do with sound reinforcement, stacking speakers, plugging in, everything.
Yeah.
Which I'll grant them, I because I still talk to some of those guys. I still see some of those guys.
That's awesome.
And I talked to them, and the funny part was that the very first thing I did, this is a beautiful lesson in the difference between education and knowledge.
Yeah,
right?
right.
Here I am going to an engineering school. I understand all of this. At the technical level, my first job was to plug in a bunch of monitors. I strung together probably 6 monitors on one half of an amplifier and blew up the amp. In my first 10 minutes, I look back on it and I think, well, no wonder they didn't call me back. The guy's an idiot.
Exactly. Oh shit!
But I kept showing up, and at the end of the time, the funny part, I mean, the moral of the story, the funny part of the story is they invited me to the Christmas party toward the end of the season, you know, at the end of the year. And I showed up, and the kind of the principals of the company there, and they were like looking at me going, who is this guy? I mean, does he work for us? You know, and somehow the story got churned out and told, and they were so taken by it that they offered me a job on site. I said, well, yeah, you're going, okay, yes, come.
So
and I remember they handed me at the Christmas party an Anvil briefcase, a brand new Anvil briefcase.
Oh, nice.
And dude, it was like, I've arrived.
Right.
I've arrived.
Look,
I'm on
Dad.
the scene. Here it is, right? Here's my credentials. Right? Here's my bona fides.
You still have it?
I might.
In that warehouse.
Yeah, it's probably in that warehouse somewhere collecting dust, man.
Damn. So wait, so you worked the whole summer doing sound, they never called you. How'd you get paid? Or did you not?
I didn't get paid.
You just showed up every Friday or whatever it was, every
paid,
weekend,
yeah.
worked every
So
show.
At least it was probably 3 months worth of shows. Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I just knew it. It was just like, no, okay, I got it. And, you know, through that, it was funny how it all just started falling into place. Through meeting a couple of those people that were working at that, I took another job moonlighting at a recording studio, and then, you know, it was just on, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you could kind of trace everything right back to those moments, you know.
Were there people, there must have been, I mean, you blew up half an amp, so there must have been someone there who was like, it's okay, kid, we'll take care of you at this point. There must have been some guys there that helped you out.
Without question. Without question. One in particular who I had I mean, he and I have stayed in touch over the years, but we had a really cool moment the other night in Kansas City because we played the show in Kansas City, and I'd invited him down. His name is Steve Rushin. He's one of the guys, the first guys to really, really take me under his wing and protect me from all of the other pieces of it and show me a lot of stuff. I mean, explain at really a fundamental level how things worked. And
how old was he at the time, if you don't mind me asking?
He was probably he's got to be at least 6, 7, 8 years older than me.
Okay.
I mean, at least that much. Maybe.
Right. But when you're like a teenager, that's like, he's like an
and
old
I
man.
mean, yeah, it was just like, he believes in me. Okay, let's go. And I remember the first time he let me step up to the console, you know, at a show that he was mixing. He was like, okay, look, here's the lead vocal, here's the guitar, you know, blah, 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 show me things. He said, I'm just going to stand back, just let me see what you can do here, right? So at the show in Kansas City the night, he's sitting behind me. I said, come here. I put him up on the console. I said, that's the lead vocal, that's the lead guitar. That's the only two you need to know for this song. So and turned him loose on it. Yeah, there's a couple of pictures of it up on Facebook. It's really
that is awesome, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
What a super cool, you know, coming full circle sort of story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all about that. I mean, you know, you gotta give it back. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
It was cool. It was a very, very cool moment. But I mean, I worked with some incredible mentors there. I mean, one guy in particular who I really have great reverence for was a gentleman named Ken Pattison, who was a principal designer at the company. He would do all their installs and stuff. And he, as I understand it, he worked for Altec Lansing for a period of time and was a partial owner of some of the patents on the multi-cell horn, all this stuff. And, you know, he was positively frightening to work for, and at the same time you just realized, man, those are words from the burning bush right there, you know. Right. And he did not suffer fools. I mean, if you were going to come and hang and chat with him, you better freaking know what you're talking about, because he just would not suffer through it, you know? Right. So it really set a really, really great tone for me.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
It was really good.
So from that, you got a gig working in a studio.
I was also working in a studio, a little local studio. We were doing just, you know, recordings and stuff there. And as chance would have it, I mean, total chance would have it, a local band there called Shooting Star had just released their first album on Virgin Atlantic. Gus Dudgeon produced it, and it was a fantastic record, absolutely fantastic record. They were getting great response from it, and they were coming into the studio to record some more demos. And as luck would have it, they were going to go do a show. Well, Superior Sound was going to do audio for the show, and, you know, there was just this that kind of happened. Just this meeting of people, and they were getting ready to go out and do shows, and said, what can you do? Can you come out with us? So I went out as taking care of all the drums, because I had some background in drums, and mixing monitors for them. And we went and did a whole bunch of shows. I mean, opening for a lot of people and headlining some big shows. They were probably the biggest band that never made it. I swear they were that band, you know.
Wow. That's
so
awesome.
that was a huge stepping point there, and I was smart enough to parlay that into a career, because because here we were working as an opening act on these tours that were using every major sound company. I mean, I met people on those tours that I still stay in touch with today.
Damn.
So it's it's networking. You're damn right, it's networking. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah. But it's also, had you been a dick.
Oh, totally.
Right. Like,
well, and you got to be able to perform. That's
Right.
what I tell all the kids. It's like, look, you can get all the knowledge in the world, and you can, even out here on these tours, you can be the best freaking mixer on the planet. If you can't get along out here,
right,
you're just going to get rooted out like a bad weed. I mean, it's just over time. It's just natural law. You're going to go away.
Right.
May not be tomorrow,
right?
May not be next week, but at some point you're going to go away. People
Yeah.
will just not tolerate it out here.
Sure. Well, it's tight quarters, and it's
you got to be able to
hot, and
hang.
It's a thing, and you got to
and pressure,
right.
all of it. You got to be able to hang. You
Right.
gotta be able to hang.
Was it always at that point when you started, working with these guys, like you wanted to be out on the road? Did you think in your studio time that, like, I like the studio a little bit better?
I was really,
or did it not matter?
I was really divided at that time, and I mean, I always had it in the back of my mind, certainly, that I want to produce someday. I want to produce music someday. Absolutely, that's what I want to do. This has got to be a means to that end here. And all throughout the 80s, I mean, I worked with that concept in mind. I was always trying to wiggle my way into the studio if a band was that I was working with was in the studio, and was able to work around absorb some really, really great people. And probably no better example of that, I think, in terms of my imprint and my programming again, than when I got hooked up with Def Leppard and was hanging around Mike Shipley. That guy had the biggest ears of anybody I've ever sat around. I mean, I still contend he's one of the greatest mixers that we've ever had in this business.
What did you get from him?
Just, how do I even describe this? Just sounds, and how to kind of build the tapestry, like a dense tapestry that doesn't sound dense.
Right.
That was his thing. Like, he could just make parts just sit so beautifully in a mix, and he made it look so effortless, man.
And to give
I remember sitting in the studio watching him just going, I need to just fucking quit. I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm just, and at some point, and I think I learned this from him as well. Him and, maybe even Mutt a little bit, just in the few interactions I had with him, is that, you have to find a way to be you,
Right.
What's the old saying? I got to be me. All the other people are taken, right?
Yeah.
He says you got to find your own identity in your sounds and in your mixes and stuff.
Yeah.
So if there's an identity in my sounds, it's probably either Mike Shipley or Bob Clearmountain. It's one of those two things. That programming is in my brain.
Sure. I think you're right. You do start to find it the more you do it.
Yeah.
Had you been cut loose in studios, I imagine you would have found that thing, and some kid would have been sitting behind you, right, being like,
it's interesting. I took it pretty far. I started my own studio, started my own label at one point. Once I moved to Phoenix, I had kind of this grand plan of moving to Phoenix and kind of cultivating that music scene and pushing a bunch of stuff out of there, and it didn't really pan out. But that was a really, really meaningful time in my life because I felt totally in control. I got some people to pay attention to what we were doing there.
Yeah.
And it was cool. But, at the same time, going through it a few times and kind of being there was something in me that just went, you know what, I'm going to make my mark in live sound. Everybody's a producer right now.
Right.
But I know I can go out there and be something that not everybody is out there. And I think, I just had this inkling. I was like, I think I can get out there and impact that world. And it comes from this mindset. I've talked to people about this before. I don't think I ever wanted to be quote unquote successful. I wanted to be significant. There's a difference in those two things. If I get to the end of my career and my epitaph is, well, he mixed 5,000 shows in his career, and man, those were some really good sounding shows. If that's it, this has been a complete failure. So that's my take on it, and it's part of what I emotionally allowed me to go to work for Avid, I think, when it happened, because I thought, okay, I got some ideas for some things and on how things should go here, when we make this transition into digital, and I think I can do something here that's going to change the world a little bit.
Damn. That was awesome, man. That's
Well,
awesome.
it's true. I mean, it sounds heady to say that somebody's thinking like that, but those kind of things are in my head.
Yeah.
And aside from other aspects of the touring life, there's a physical aspect of the touring life that is very, very appealing for me as well. I'm not a person who can sit in the same room and grind and grind and grind and grind over and over again day after day, which is something that Mike Shipley could do in spades. I watched that guy. Work himself like nobody's business. He had the most unbelievable stamina in the studio at the most minute level. He could zoom so far in and just stay there for hours and hours, and that wore me down. I tried being that, and it wore me down, and and I don't want to credit Mike with this in any way, shape, or form, but it made me start to hate music a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because it was stealing some of the romance out of the music, especially music production in the late '80s into the early '90s. It was like, wow, this is how we're going to make music. I don't want to do this. I wanted to get out and have something be much more organic, and live shows were it for me. So,
sure.
It was like, that's real. There's no hiding there.
Well, right. Well, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but what the fuck? Producing isn't sexy almost until the record comes out.
That's exactly right.
Like Rick Rubin's not the sexiest guy when he's holed up with Anthony and the boys for 5 months making Californication or whatever it is, right? It's sexy when it's out, and it's hopefully it's successful.
Sexy and romantic when it's out. It's very romantic to look back on it, and
and someone's documented, and you're watching the behind the scenes of how they made this record. It's like, oh, isn't that cool? They're eating sushi and they're whatever they're doing,
yeah,
and they're getting cool drum tones. But
even that, I started to have a real problem with as a producer. I don't know where this came from in me, but I was very steadfast about it. Working with artists, especially with new artists, of kind of getting to know them, and I can remember having meetings with with one band in particular that I was really after trying to produce, and it was like, we would meet, and I wanted to get to know them. It's like, I need to get to know you. I need to know where your music is coming from.
Yeah.
And after about the fourth dinner and hang, they were going, so when are you going to start producing us? What's going on? It's like, I have been for the last 4 dinners. Okay, so just hang in there. This is about learning how to make your record, not mine. We're not there to make my record. They're there to make your record.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we're making your record, not somebody that you think you want to be. It's like, this has got to be a pure thing.
Right.
The worst thing that can happen to you is to record this song that you think is so great right now and have it be a huge hit, and you resent having to sing it 40 years from now. It's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. Really trying to get artists to think a little more out of the moment, So
yeah. Was that a struggle for you?
Yeah, it was a struggle to get artists, especially new artists, guys that are kind of new to the business, because it's all very romantic to them.
Right,
They don't understand the hard nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
And to get them to believe that things like that could happen,
Sure.
So I try to always get that across them. You have to be ready. It might be just right around the corner for you. Are you ready? You're never going to be fully ready, of course, but don't just think this is,
Yeah.
It's hard to put it in context for them,
Well, sure, and there's a lot of blessings and curses in the music
Big
industry.
time,
right?
big time. There's an equal amount of all of those.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's not always rosy.
Yeah.
Not always
I was talking to Eric Gamble recently, and he was saying, it was something like, you're meant for this business when you can't quit.
Yeah,
basically,
there's
right?
absolute
You've been
truth
burned,
in that.
so you sort of scarred yourself enough. You're like,
well, you
there's
just
nothing else I can
accept
do.
that as cost of doing business.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's just hop back for a second to the Def Leppard thing. Can you put that in sort of a time perspective, like album-wise? Are we like around Paranoia?
That was
Paranoia?
Hysteria. That was right before Hysteria.
Okay.
And it's a nice story for there. I can kind of come back and check boxes of people that absolutely changed the arc for me, and that was one, because it was kind of a funny story. I was mixing Alice Cooper at the time, that was a boyhood dream for me. Live, yeah. I was doing his shows it was kind of his big comeback tour. And it was a thrilling thing for me to get to mix him. And I'll just go out on a limb and say, he's one of the greatest guys I've ever been around.
Alice
absolutely the real deal, the real deal. But we're on this tour, and there's this band Tesla opening up.
Sure.
And their management is East End management. You know, it's Peter Minch, Cliff Bernstein, you know, I mean, the gods, right?
Yeah.
So they're constantly out, and they're hearing me mix the show. They're hearing their guy mix Tesla, whatever, you know. And somehow, I've said this countless times, and I'm going to find out someday. Somehow, Joe Elliott, who, you know, they were starting Hysteria at that time, you know, getting it going. Somehow he got a hold of a desk cassette from one of my shows. I mean, it was, you know, a reference cassette. I was recording on cassette at the time and listened to him. And somehow he got a hold of one of those. And I don't know this for sure, but I think it was Ross Halfin, the photographer. I think he's the one that nabbed it and gave it to Joe. And I can't be pissed at him because it worked out really, really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets this tape, and they get to the point where they're starting to look for front of house guys. Joe calls Peter and goes, I got our guy. And Peter's like, well, who is it? He goes, I don't know. Find out who's mixing Alice Cooper right now. And he goes, well, I know who's mixing Alice Cooper right now. And he goes, are you sure? He goes, I hear it out here every night. Are you sure? And he goes, this is our guy. And it all had to do with how I was handling backing vocal treatment on the Alice thing. I come to find out many years talking to Joe about it. I was like, well, what got you on the tape? He goes, oh, the backing vocals were just unbelievable sounding, you know.
Wow.
So long story short, the tour is ending. And you know, at the time, Dokken was getting ready to go out, which was also an East End account. And I was pimping Peter to get Dokken. I was like, dude, let me go out and mix Dokken. I could kill that. Come on, you know, blah, 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 blah. Not knowing this is Def Leppard thing is going on in the background.
Right.
So I get home for a week, come home from something, whatever, phone message. Peter Mensch calling, please call me back. I'm thinking, yes, I got the Dokken gig. Def Leppard.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, Def Leppard, really? I mean, are they still a band? I mean, I know the drummer's only got one arm now. I mean, what? You know, I was like, really?
Right.
You know? And he goes, no, this is going to be huge. Just trust me.
And they were fucking huge at that time.
Well,
right?
they were, but here's the little known thing that people don't know about that tour. You know, I mean, that was a huge production.
Yeah.
And we went out. I think I want to say it was in August of '86, maybe '87.
Yeah.
Started the tour. Toured for 4 months, 5 months. It was an absolute flop. We only did one double nighter on the whole thing, and that was in Denver, and that was the last night of the tour. Right?
Wow.
I mean, we all got our platinum records, and they sent us home. And within 2 weeks, they had released videos from that show for Pour Some Sugar on Me to MTV. We were out for another 14 months within about 2 or 3 weeks of that.
Wow.
I mean, I just distinctly remember us going to the Omni in Atlanta in January, February, and selling maybe 60% of that building.
Jesus.
6 months later, we came back and did 4 nights there.
Wow.
So don't, you know, I mean, we can all knock on MTV all we want, you know, and with good reason. That totally turned that career around for those guys. I mean, it saved them without a doubt. And it went on to be one of the biggest grossing tours, you know, of all time. I mean, it was just a ridiculous tour.
And, you know, let's not discount whose tour we're on right now. And it didn't save Petty's career by any stretch, right? But, I mean, the two hand in hand helped grow a massive part of the industry.
Without a doubt. You know, I mean, not to go off on any kind of morbid thing here, but, you know, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and, you know, just really, I mean, obviously we're getting to the season of life now where we're starting to lose some of these icons.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, as I've been known to say, the mortality rate, it's 100%.
Right.
Okay, so it's going to happen. So, you know, but I started to think of it in the context of, you know, let's zoom out 10, 15 years here when the majority of these guys are going to be gone. And look at the impact that it's going to have on the touring industry. I mean, who's going to fill those holes?
Yeah.
I mean, the Rolling Stones, the Tom Pettys, you know, those bands have been carrying the touring industry in terms of revenue now for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years.
Sure.
When that all shuts down, who's coming in?
Right.
I don't see them. Is it country? I don't know. Is it hip hop?
I don't know, but hip hop's a different type of beast, right?
Yeah. I mean, who's going to carry the industry in terms of revenue? And there may be an answer. I'm just saying I don't have the perspective to see that right now. I just think,
well,
the void is going to be huge. You know,
absolutely, and yeah, it puts a lot of people like you at odds, or not at odds, but I'm sure it makes you anxious. And
well,
look, you might not have the answer, but I imagine you're not having that conversation in your head. You guys are all having that conversation together.
Well,
so if you haven't come up with it yet,
about, in circles too much, but it's certainly something you're aware of. You're definitely thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily, to some degree, this is another morbid thing to say in a way that with the streaming media services, right? It has forced people to go out on the road and spend more time on the road. So maybe that's where, with some of these bands, that's that sort of next generation band, let's say down from the Stones and Petty.
Well, it's only a matter of time though, because I always say this about the record companies. They didn't get all the money because they're stupid. They got all the money because they saw all the money and went after it. So as soon as all these same people see all the money out here, they're going to come after this money too.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's already happening to a degree, and Petty has been a real crusader for that. I mean, all of the surcharges, all of the things, ticket prices, all of those things, those serve to ruin it in the long run. Those will make a lot of people very, very wealthy, but they ruin it in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a very short-sighted thing to look at,
Yeah. So, well, we're talking about Tom. Let's get to Tom. So let's talk about how you shifted into Tom world.
Yeah,
23 years now.
20 coming up on 25 now. Yeah. So, it was interesting. And I've told Tom this. It's funny that some of the conversations you can have after the fact. But when his management was kind of recruiting me for a while to come and work for them through the early 90s, and that was when I was on all those Rush tours. I mean, I was doing Rush for ages. Which was also a boyhood dream for me. I mean, I really could have retired after doing those Rush shows and been happy. But they were recruiting me, and I just remember thinking, Tom Petty, really? I don't know, man. It's like I was just in a different place. I didn't quite get it.
Right.
And now that
you
said,
were a fan, you appreciated it, but it just wasn't like.
I mean, honestly, I appreciated it from the from the record production standpoint.
Yeah.
Like Shelley Yakis and Iveen doing those early records. I mean, those were amazing sounding records.
Yeah,
and again, kind of back to this Kansas City connection. There was a band that I kind of worked with off and on in Kansas City, who Stan Lynch produced.
Okay,
and as soon as they played me the demo that they had done together, I went, "Ooh, wow, great drum sounds." And it was like, that's the Petty drum sound,
Yeah, right.
So, I had always kind of latched onto it from the record production thing, but I didn't get where that music was coming from. I kind of easily brushed it off.
Yeah.
And, I would soon learn how wrong I was. So as schedules kind of worked out, whatever, okay, yeah, I'll come in and do it, And this wasn't long after, this was a few years after, but it wasn't long after Mike Shipley had mixed Let Me Up, I've Had Enough.
Okay.
Another fantastic sounding record. I just remember listening to that, go, yeah, that's Shipley. That's absolutely Shipley,
Yeah.
So I kind of had that to go on as well. That was like an attraction. And I remember talking to Mike about it, and he goes, oh, dude, take the gig. Take the gig. He said, they are the greatest thing I have ever worked with. He said, you will absolutely love the gig. So, all of a sudden it was like, okay, all right, I'll give it a shot, And
I was like, I'll give it a shot.
I'll give it a
Tom
shot.
Petty.
Yeah. So this is no exaggeration. Within about 2 or 3 days of rehearsals, I just remember thinking, this is the greatest rock band in America right here.
And we're in 1994?
That's 94. 94, 95.
Oh, so we're right in like Mary Jane's Last Dance world, right?
That was Wildflowers was the first tour I did, yeah. That was
great.
I mean, that was me and Ferroni came through the door essentially at the same time.
Yeah. Great album.
Oh, it was fantastic. Damn. Absolutely fantastic. And, once I had to kind of dive into their catalog really deep and get into it, and then see them not necessarily performing Tom Petty songs, but all the other stuff they were doing. Like my first 3 or 4 days of rehearsals, I don't think they played a Tom Petty song the entire time I was there.
Really?
I mean, I'm not kidding. And, it started driving, and I was watching them how they were doing it. It wasn't like they had been playing all these covers. I mean, somebody would just call one out, and they would play it. Jesus. And I just remember thinking, wow, man, I don't think I've ever been around a band that had that kind of musical retention, you know?
Right.
And the first thing that started coming into my mind, like they would start playing songs and I would think, I heard this song at the breakfast table on Dad's radio. And it's like, I know what's coming. It's a piano part right here. Or the programming kicked in, you know, where I was just like, I know all of these songs.
Wow.
And all of a sudden the reverence started growing a little bit, you know, and it really didn't take long after that. And then from hearing them do all those covers, I started looking at their music differently. I started to realize where all of those lyrics, where all of those guitar parts, those rhythms were coming from. It was like, oh, that's okay. It's like, you know, it was almost like that moment. Oh, this is going to sound cheesy to say it this way, but it just drives home kind of the mindset of it. It was almost like when you were a Led Zeppelin fan and you found out that those were all Willie Dixon songs. You know, you kind of all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
That's so cool. You know, because I remember listening to Led Zeppelin when I was 12, 13 years old, just going, this doesn't sound like anything that's out. Where is this coming from? You know, Only to 20 years later figure out where it all came from.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So those were cool moments, you know. I mean, and it really endeared me to him. I just thought, oh, I could work here forever, you know.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you know, it's funny. I was just talking to someone the other night. I can't remember who it was because it was someone else. I think it was Analog Man Mike Piera, and we were talking about Tom Petty. I was mentioning I was coming to the show, and we're like, you know, he's Petty. Let's go on a little Petty love here for a second.
Okay.
He's never had like a bad decade. And
Right.
then he got like pigeonholed and like, oh, now he's doing his Flock of Seagulls thing, or now he's doing his fucking grunge thing. He's always sort of maintained, and I think it's because they're just fucking great songs, right? And they're simple
and it's genuine. It is really down to that thing I mentioned earlier, where I got to be me, because all the others are taken. He is the textbook version of that.
Yeah. Everything
Everything that you get on those records off of him is him.
Right.
I mean, genuine, man. I mean, the real deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. You mentioned the Petty drum sound.
Yeah, certainly from those early days, for sure.
Yeah, that's Sound City, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is Sound City. When you're starting to work with a new band or something like that, or you came on with Petty and you knew the Petty drum sound, are you trying to recreate that? Are you
I'm trying to honor it. I mean, you're never going to recreate it.
Of course,
but you're trying to honor it, and I've actually had some long, drawn out talks, not only with the band, but even with Steve Ferroni was a great example of it, because he came in at a time, with Wildflowers, which was a very, diametrically different drum approach than those early records.
Yep.
And, he and I over time have had some pretty good discussions about it of, look, dude, there are things that need to happen in the drum sound to make those early songs work. And this modern, I don't even call it modern drum sound, but just the approach that we're taking Wildflowers on, that does not work back there.
Right.
So we've got to find some balance of that in the show and try to honor both of those segments, that's where my kind of producer and recording engineer mindset started to come in. It's like they chose those sounds for a reason. That wasn't an accident. Again, it's having that sound in your head and going to get it.
Right.
And all of that is the sum of all those parts. That's what makes those songs work. It's not any one element, but you glue all those parts together. That AC30 with that telly and that snare sitting big, fat, bright, right in the middle. That's what makes that sound.
Sure.
So I can't, unless you're just going to completely reinterpret the sound live. Right. Which, they've been known to do, reinterpret the arrangement, whatever. Yeah. Okay. But
that's different. Reinterpreting an arrangement.
Agreed. If you're going to do it by the, you're going to honor the arrangement of the original, then I'm going to honor the production quality of the original. I'm going to try to match that. It's meaningful to experience the song. Right. I can't just go in and go, well, let's do Def Leppard drum sounds for everybody. I get those I can do those really good. Let me put that in all the bands I'm mixing. Yeah. No, please no.
All right, cool. So then let's talk about, and people can look up the set list online. For what the show's going to be. The set's the same every night? It
is right now. And I will say they've been as consistent with the set list here as I've seen them in a long time. Okay. It used to be a regular thing for us where, the set list was a suggestion, and, you might go left at any moment. But he's calmed down on that a little bit. I think just trying to do it I don't want to say do it really well, because they do it really well, but just trying to really kind of step that up a notch and do the show in a really, really fine fashion,
Yeah. So, okay, so we're chatting before tonight's set. I mean, I looked a little bit. I can't quite remember everything. We're not going to, talk about specific songs. But what I wanted to get to was, so in the set, I know it jumps around from time, right? So you're kind of prepared, if I understand what you're saying here, you're kind of prepared for any given tune to dial up something that's somewhat honoring or representative of that tune, of that time.
It's one of the absolute beauties of having digital technology out here, is to be able to set up a quote-unquote soundscape and recall it and get to it quickly. Whereas in analog, I mean, that's a complete of, hang on, I got to go do this now and get this stuff ready.
Sure.
And you get it halfway through the first chorus. Right. Here I can get there pretty quick. And
well, I imagine everything's preset, saved, and you're just like
it can. I mean, I use digital just to kind of get the console in a state that allows me to mix the song. It's just like, okay, for this one, this needs to be muted. These faders need to be here. This EQ needs to be on this. Go. Now mix it. It's almost like somebody handing you the right guitar before you go out and play. I just need the right guitar sitting in front of me, and I can do it.
Let's talk about your relationship with Avid.
Yeah.
And how that came about, and what you've touched on a little bit, but what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a networking story. So I was mixing monitors for Laurie Anderson in the 80s. You know Laurie?
Of course.
I mean, she's just so fantastic. One of my favorite people I've ever met.
My stepsister gave me a Laurie. I'm a blues rock, guy growing up, and my stepsister gave me a Laurie Anderson album early on, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
What is this? Yeah. Well, I remember when I first walked into rehearsals, I didn't really know what I was walking into, and I was just like, we're going to do what? Right. Oh, yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
At any rate, we did that tour, and the keyboard player on the tour was this gentleman named Dave LeBolt. So this is in the 80s, and me and Dave got on very famously. We got on really well. We would hang out together on days off and stuff. I got to know his wife, and blah blah blah. So, like I remember us being in Japan and going down to Akihabara. This is one of the moments I think that bonded us. Going down to Akihabara, and we were searching around in the technology shops and everything, and we came across this thing by Yamaha called an SPX 90, and we were looking at it going, what is that? And we finally got somebody to kind of hook it up, and we were playing it, and we were like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me right now. we both bought like 2 or 3 of them on spot.
Wow.
We must have paid, I probably paid $2,000 a unit for one of those things at the time. But it was like, that is the shizzle right there, man. I mean, we are loaded for bear right now. Nobody had ever seen it before. So long story short, tour ends, and as many tours do, we parted ways and never heard from him again until I get this phone call in it must have been 99, early 2000. And in the meantime, I'd kind of been watching David, and he went on to play with Billy Joel. I mean, a very, very successful career as a musician. He's an incredible keyboardist. I mean, he is really, really the real deal. But he went to work for DigiDesign, and he drove all of the very significant Pro Tools development throughout the late 90s.
Okay.
And it got to a point in 99, 2000, he called me and he goes, hey, I'm thinking about trying to get DigiDesign to make a live sound console. You want to come up and talk to me about it? I mean, we hadn't talked in 10 years. Wow. Over 10 years.
Wow.
And I thought, yeah, let's talk. So got up there. I've told this story a couple of times. I wish we went out to dinner. I wish I had the napkin drawings. I mean, we literally sat and just kind of said, well, maybe it needs to be this. Let's do it this way, One of those kind of things, moments. And then 5 years later, we release the D-Show system to the world, And I don't want to misrepresent it. It's not like I was involved in every detail of it.
Right,
I was just more a super consultant than anything on the thing. They really drove it. But it was very clear. Once I got my foot in the door there, at some point about 2004, they just said, look, you interested in coming to work for us?
You're here all the time.
Yeah, you want to come to work and help us promote this? And it was at a point in my life where I had already been touring for a long, long time, and I had kids. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready to pull back a little bit and be dad and be husband and
I
do those
read that
things,
quote. I think it was FOH online or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
About your kids told something in school that you work at the airport.
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
always
That's a
going to
true
the
story.
airport.
Yeah.
How do you balance touring and kids and family and what? I mean, for you,
Well, I have my
personally?
daughter out on the road with me now. She's actually working for Tom now. She does wardrobe and production on the tour.
Nice.
So before long, I'll have them all out here with me.
How many you got?
I got three. I got 2 boys and the girl. So
Cool.
But no, it's just I have little methods that we do to take care of it. It's just all about staying connected. And meaningfully connected, not just phone calls. You have to, like me and my wife have this kind of rule that we've really tried hard to keep in place, although it's challenging. Is if we're physically apart for 3 weeks or more, they have to come out. They just have to come out. It's just cost of doing business. Let's go. Because it doesn't matter how much you talk by phone or FaceTime or anything like that.
Yeah.
Once that phone call's done, your worlds are very, very separate, and you start to grow apart.
Yeah.
At least that's what we noticed. And
Yeah.
I was lucky enough that she met me when I was touring, and it's all we've ever known. You
Right.
know, honestly,
How long
it
you
was
been
probably
married?
a harder transition coming off the road where I was home all the time.
right.
I'm not kidding.
Right.
Yeah.
Harder for her, harder for you.
Definitely harder for her. I can remember, looking across the pillow at her some mornings, and she having that look in her eyes of just like, oh my God, he is still here. I'm going to have to deal with this guy all freaking day. It just
Right. She's just making that honeydew list
it's
longer.
like,
right.
I swear she's the one that called Petty's management and go, get him out of here, please. Go do some touring for Christ's sake.
Right.
Get me out of here.
How do you?
Sorry, where did we? What were we on there?
I don't
can't
know.
remember.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, we're just talking about surviving on the road,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how to keep how to balance that. You make a sacrifice to come out and do what you're doing.
Certainly, it's sacrificial at home for sure. It takes. God bless my wife. It takes a strong woman to.
How
do
long you guys been married? That was
20. Well, we got married 3 years to the day we met, so we've been together. It's going to be coming up on 30 years here. So
Wow.
yeah, we're a kind of a rare breed in this business because I've watched it churn through a lot of marriages, man.
Yeah, I
A lot
bet.
of
Is
marriages.
she also in the business or no?
No, she started out as a ballet dancer, so she understood certainly a side of the show business side.
Yeah.
She knows that it's not just all party time out here. But
Right.
but that said, we had a really interesting thing happen here. I was relating this to somebody the other day, where she lost her mother recently and had to be out of the house. She went back to Ohio to be with them during that time, and she was gone for about 3-4 weeks. And I was home by myself with the kids. And the difference was so profound of, like sleeping in a hotel and being away from your family versus
You're the
sleeping
one
in
that's
your
left
bed,
behind,
being
right.
away from your spouse. Man, I was having trouble maintaining.
Wow.
It was trouble. I was just like, how the hell does she do this,
Right.
I just was like refusing to go to bed. It was just like, I don't want to go up there, it was hard. And
That's
this
interesting.
kind of
the
respect.
I was gonna say
yeah.
it probably ramped up.
It ramped
in
up
your
even
head.
higher. I've
Damn.
always had incredible respect for her being able
course.
to pull off what she's done. But
Right.
to do that, I was just like, okay, all right, yeah, got it, loud and clear.
Sorry.
Yeah, love you, mean it.
How do you give me your daily routine? Is there stuff that you do to you've been on the road a long time, so what
Yeah.
have you learned? How have you learned to cope and be out here? You said like I'm better suited for that than the minutia of being in a studio. Okay, so what do you do? What can you pass
Well,
on?
like I said, there was certainly in my early days of touring, there was a physical aspect of it that was really challenging and cool. I'm older now. But I still need that physical aspect of it. This is going to sound so weird to talk about this, but I guess I got to do it. After I turned 50, I started really getting back into fitness. And
I was gonna say, do you do like a fit guy?
yeah, I do some pretty crazy stuff out here. Just
Yeah.
ask any of the guys I work with. So I started taking on these really kind of heavy events and doing them. And I'd always been kind of an athlete when I was younger. You'll never confuse me with a professional athlete, but
Right,
I was
right.
I was always doing stuff. I played basketball and baseball and wrestled, through school and stuff like that. So I always had that in me a little bit. But I met up with a guy in Scottsdale who was in the process of training Navy SEALs, for SEAL training.
Right.
And I kind of joined his gym, and it was a very militaristic style of workout. It's CrossFit-like, but it's kind of CrossFit on steroids. Not literally, but figuratively.
Right.
And he got me into it, and I started doing these big events. Like the first really big event I did was the Alcatraz swim. I did swim from Alcatraz down to Golden Gate Park, or aquatic park, and this past year, he and I and a group of other guys did the World's Toughest Mudder, which is a 24-hour endurance race.
Yeah, those are crazy.
They're crazy events. So we have these kind of, I have them kind of posted out on the calendar that I want to do, and kind of one of the next ones I want to do is either Kilimanjaro or Denali, Mount McKinley. So, I'm not really in training for it right now, but I'm doing all the things to stay ready to start training toward the end of the year. So, like when I come in the mornings, you might have seen this on the video blogs, because I've been sharing these with my workout partners. That's why I put them in the blog, so that it's like my accountability. It's like, look, I'm still going. But I'll come in the mornings and do stair routines, like body weight and stair routines. So I'll come in and do a 60-minute, we call it an AMRAP, as many rounds as possible of complete stair ascension, running with a rucksack, 40-pound rucksack or a sandbag,
through
push-ups.
A stadium or the arena, whatever.
I mean, it's the best workout facility you could ever do,
Right.
And it helps. I mean, just to kind of, I mean, for me, I've said it this way before. It's kind of my breakfast. I mean, I get here at 6:45 in the morning, and that's my first couple of hours is doing that, and it puts me mentally in a place that's really, really good. I do absolutely some of my best thinking and my best work during that 2 hours.
I bet.
I mean, I spend that time reviewing mixes of the previous night.
Yeah.
It just puts me in the right mindset for it. It's not for everybody. I'm not here preaching it as everybody needs to do that. That's what works for me. Like this morning, I did a 6.5 mile, 50-pound rucksack hike, at 7:00 this morning, so.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And you actively listen to the previous show?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
What are you listening for?
Just trends. I mean, it's really no different than an athlete watching video of himself at the plate or, things like that. You're just looking for things that you're missing throughout the night. Maybe you're focused on something and you're missing something else go on. Maybe there's a little keyboard part that I'm missing or something. Oh gosh, how could I miss that?
Right.
And it gets you. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I'm listening, I'm mixing it.
Right.
So it's just rehearsal and refresh.
Wow.
No, I'm a maniac about that. It's like you've got to do it. Yeah, it's a hard look in the mirror some days where you just kind of go, God, that sucked. What were you possibly thinking there?
Yeah.
And it's how you get better. It's just how you get better.
Damn. That's pretty hot. So then as the day goes on, what does the day look like for you?
The day goes on, I mean, really, starting about, any time now. I
gotta
would
get
be,
to work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the PA systems we're using now are really, really proficient at doing what we want them to do. So it's not near as... I don't want to say near as demanding. It is demanding, but we can just do it much easier than we used to be able to do it. And I have an incredible assistant out here with me right now that I'm leaning on very heavily. It's the first time we've worked together, but he is just sharp as a tack. So between doing all the video blog stuff and podcasting and all those kind of things, it eats up a lot of my morning.
Sure.
And then about 1:00 we start doing the real PA work and get virtual sound check going, all that kinds of stuff. So
yeah. Is there anything you do prior to the show to just zone out, get ready for the show?
No, I mean, I've got that pretty much down to a routine. I mean, given how early I start in the day, one of the mandatory things that I have to have is that at about 6:00, I've got to have about a 20-minute just quick nap. I mean, just this kind of quick power nap, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm good for the rest of the night. But if I don't get that nap, man,
watch out.
I struggle. But
bet.
I just got to have that little bit of reset,
Yeah. Well, I know some guys meditate, they do their thing.
Yeah, I have. It's like the amazing thing is, I mean, I've mixed honestly tens of thousands of shows, not tens of thousands, but thousands of shows, and there's still that moment of butterflies that comes, and then it's over very, very quickly once the show starts. But I got to have about 30 or 40 seconds of just kind of closed eyes where you're just kind of rehearsing your first move and just thinking, yeah, okay, got it. and then house lights go out and you start. At least that's my routine.
Yeah. That's what works for you.
Yeah, I just got to have that 30, 40 seconds to get my head clear, like kind of clear the mechanism and go.
What haven't you done yet that's still out there for you? Woo!
That is really a great question.
Thank you.
Because some of the bands I wanted to mix, I can't do now. So, you really got me thinking on that one.
You want to come back to that one?
Yeah, they might even let me churn on that one for a little bit.
All right. I'm gonna give you this one. This is a new one I've started to throw into the mix. If you could go back in time to that 13-year-old kid
Yeah.
at the Supertramp concert,
Yeah.
was Supertramp, who came home and was all fucking lit up about his experience, what would you say?
What would I tell myself?
Yeah.
Bear down and don't. Don't really kind of bear down and don't be scared. Don't be respectful, but don't be intimidated.
Were you scared?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you just have no, because it didn't really exist in any meaningful way at that point. I mean, we're still talking the early, mid 70s there, you know. I mean, there were no schools.
Right.
I mean, I remember going to my first recording kind of workshop thing, which was awesome, but just thinking, well, there were no college programs. There were no post-secondary educational places teaching it. I mean, it was the school of hard knocks. I mean, that's how you were going to learn it. And it's like, well, how do you do that, And, funny enough, I mean, it was probably easier to become a musician at the time.
Sure.
Although it's similar path.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, then, okay, on that, you do something very cool where you invite people.
Yeah.
Or they have to sign up to come to a venue. Is that the deal? Like, for example, they could technically come today to Hartford.
Yes, yeah.
And what do they get to do, and how do they find that?
They find it on the Avid website, either the Avid website now or the EAW website, the Eastern Acoustic Works website, which is the manufacturer of the PA system. And I've been doing these since, 2006. 2005, 2006, and it really was born out of the console, of getting to showcase the console and trying to demystify it and myth bust it a little bit in front of people. And it was kind of the golden part of it is that people get to see it, get technology demoed to them, but in an absolutely real world frame, a framework where it's like, I can't fluff this because we're actually getting it ready for the show. House lights are going to go out here in 3 hours. I mean,
right.
I can't tell you it's going to do something it's not going to do because it has to be able to do it here. I mean,
do it. Yeah.
So there's a very real aspect to it, and people responded really, really positively to that. And over the course of, when are we doing it? 12 years now or whatever. I mean, I've probably run 4,000 people through that program, Wow. And, they come in.
Is there a name for this?
It's called, we just call it a Tom Petty Soundcheck event. But they come in and I basically explain to them what's happening during the day. Like I give them the timeline. Okay, here's what's happening here. Here's why we build a stage and roll it into place. Here's how the PA works, especially today, because the way people think PA systems work and the way they actually work, they more often than not, they're just completely blown away by that.
Right.
They have no idea what is actually taking place on a day-to-day basis to get these PAs into these facilities and to get them optimized for it. And then I take them all out to the console and we talk about the console, what it does, its features, and then I do virtual sound check for them, which is a playback. Honestly, that's the thing I went to work to Avid to try to get through. It's a workflow in live sound now that I started doing in analog form. I didn't know nobody else was doing it, but I was doing it in analog form in 1994, 95, and then was able to get it into a digital product as a full featured piece of the product for 2005 when that console came out. So
they basically come, they hang out for sound check.
It's virtual sound check.
It's virtual sound check because the band's not out.
The band does not show up. Yeah.
Okay, so you run them through the night before.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice because I can break things down and show them why we're doing things certain ways and how do you get that sound. Well, here it is right here. So
wow.
So yeah, it's a very insightful thing, and you've seen it on the website. I mean, they respond really, really positively.
Yeah,
to
man,
it,
absolutely. How do people find you?
You can find me on Facebook.
Yes, you can.
You can find me on Twitter I haven't got my website up right yet. My daughter's going to help me put that together. But so got that going on. You can certainly find me through the Avid website.
Yep.
I have just getting ready to start a podcast that is actually a little more Avid centric.
Okay.
It's going to be called On the Case. So I did my first interview for that about a week ago.
What type of people are you interviewing for that?
Front of house engineers and monitor engineers.
Cool.
And it's specifically about console technology. So.
Okay. So
And
deep tech.
Yeah, it's more deep tech. It's more application based. Yeah.
Yep.
And then toward the end of the year, I think by the fall, I just about got all these in place. I'm starting an online radio station called Road Crew Radio. And it's going to be completely focused on live music and live music production throughout history. So
That's
gonna
awesome.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun.
You got to let us know about
that's
that.
A labor of love there.
Yeah,
you know?
I believe me. I know.
Yeah.
This,
I mean, that
show
went
that I'm doing doesn't just happen.
Well, I mean, I don't mean just that. I mean, live music, recorded live music has been a centerpiece of all of this throughout my entire life.
Of course.
And I mean, I have an enormous collection of live material that
I
I'm
bet, man.
pull from and try to explain how they got that and why it's cool.
So you've been basically a touring professional since you were 19 years old. You've
correct.
worked with some huge bands, massive bands when we add in Tom Petty.
Yeah.
You work for Avid.
Yeah.
You blog and run, and you train for like fucking marathon man shit. You just
Yeah.
mentioned 3 more things you're about to start. So back
Yeah.
to my question of what Robert hasn't done. Robert can't fucking do anything else.
Maybe
At
they've
some
checked all
point,
the
you gotta get the
boxes.
fucking sound check. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, you want to use the time, Like I said, the mortality rate's 100%. Let's use all the time.
Robert, this has been awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the invite,
Awesome.
too. I mean, really an honor to do it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you out there.
See ya. Be
right,
good
bud.
out there.
All right, my friends. Thank you, Robert Scovill. Thank you, Vic Wagner. You guys rock. Thank you, Tom Petty, for a hell of a show. Stay tuned next week, my friends, for episode number 53. My guest is going to be Rebecca Wilson, monitor engineer for such amazing talents as Wilco. You know what I'm saying? All right, don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, all is Roadie Free Radio. Head over to the Patreon account. That's patreon.com/Roadie Free Radio. Help out if you can, and we will see you in the next episode. In the meantime, my friends, y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.